Hello and good evening. This is one of the constituent components of the recently posted 5 race cars that never got off the ground video, posted separately for largely research purposes to determine which car gets a deeper dive video in the future. Enjoy! The early 2010s were not a great time for automakers when it came to economic stability. As caches crunched and belts were tightened, the bean counters in their shiny offices frequently considered expensive racing programs to be some of those proverbial low-hanging fruit that accountants are always seeking to pluck for their own aggrandizement. Into this period came Peugeot, along with all the other automakers because that's how linear time works, but unlike most of the other manufacturers of four-wheeled things, Peugeot was several years and several $100 million into a battle with Audi for dominance on the world's endurance race circuits. Also, unlike most of the other manufacturers who had attempted to stand up to Ingolstadt since their first Le Mans victory in 2000, Peugeot had managed to achieve some substantial success against the four-ringed juggernaut, and in 2011 they brought out an updated version of their 908 HDI FAP LMP1, or word salad, simply called the 908. Following the testing of a 908 HDI retrofitted with hybrid components as a technology demonstrator at Silverstone in 2008, the upcoming replacement car was designed to potentially integrate a hybrid system as it was developed. The car was originally, however, built as a non-hybrid, and went racing in 2011 in that guise, proving strong on pace and looking like the stage remained set for close battles between the 908 and the new closed-cockpit Audi, the R18. For 2012, then, a hybrid version was planned to compete with Audi's upcoming e-tron Quattro version of the R18. Testing was actually run concurrent with the 2011 season in many ways, so that transition had always been on the cards, but either way, their primary challenges in adding the hybrid components reportedly came mostly from issues with cooling. That being said, the components for the original version of the car had all been designed with additional hybrid gubbins in mind, and were thus able to be retained for the new vehicle, encompassing an in-house built carbon fiber monocoque and body panels, double wishbone and pushrod actuated torsion bar suspension on all 4 wheels, Michelin tires, a 3.0, actually since it's French, Michelin tires, a 3.7-liter twin-turbo diesel V8 mated to a Ricardo-sourced 6-speed sequential manual transmission with a limited slip differential. This power plant was good for 550 horsepower by itself, and the entire package was sufficiently feathery to require ballasting to hit the 900 kilogram LMP1 weight limit. Adding the hybrid system, which consisted of lithium-ion batteries for energy storage, in contrast to the flywheel system to be employed by Audi or Toyota's supercapacitors, an inverter, and a motor generator unit that also allowed the removal of a starter and alternator. So the net weight gain for adding the hybrid system was only about 40 kilos, which left the new 908 still 30 kgs underweight of the class minimum. The hybrid system was capable of sending an additional 80 horsepower to the rear wheels, a different setup than those pursued by other manufacturers developing their hybrid systems, all of whom opted to use the hybrid as a semi-four-wheel drive system and send the power from the batteries or supercapacitors or flywheel to the front wheels. It was also capable of running entirely under electric power, which it used to run on pit lane. There were several other innovations that Peugeot was in the process of trialing during the development, including attempts at integrating the majority of the hybrid components into the bell housing of the transmission, which was moderately successful at first, and at water cooling the batteries, which perhaps unsurprisingly was less successful, given the general result when one introduces water to high-voltage electricity. And the third and final iteration of the battery system was thus oil-cooled. The batteries were moved to the tub to improve reliability in the final design, and the remaining focus pivoted back to cooling, particularly focused on the energy recovery systems that worked with the brakes and the duty cycle of the battery, increasing the latter of which meant driving the former to temperatures that could not be sustained over the length of a stint, much less an entire race. And this was primarily limited by the airflow permitted within the aerodynamic regulations. I do realize I'm stringing together quite a few very not simple sentences there. I apologize. But I'm not sorry enough to go back and fix it. The Peugeot team then, in preparation for the 2012 season, loaded up several cars, possibly including one or more of the new hybrids, and shipped off to Sebring for pre-season testing. Shortly after their arrival, and with team personnel still en route from points abroad, Peugeot announced sweeping austerity measures to try and right-size their balance sheet to the tune of €800 million and 6,000 employees. And the 50 million or so that was sailing out the door every year on a cloud of sweet-smelling Total Excellium diesel was unfortunately on the chopping block. The 908s were shipped back to France, and a 908 Hybrid 4 never made its Le Mans debut, nor turned a single lap in anger.